And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. With 4,000 members and a traditional territory that spans 11% of the province of British Columbia, the Tahltan Nation almost entirely encompasses the Golden Triangle, the majority of gold, silver, and copper deposits in BC. On today's Open Connection, President of Pictou Consulting Corporation, Chad Norman Day.
My whole identity has always been based around being Tahltan. I feel like they did so much for me growing up. All my closest family members are Tahltan, super proud, and I always wanted to contribute back. So I first ran for Tahltan Band Council when I was doing law school at the University of Victoria. And then after that, I ran for president. And a big part of that is just being the change that you want to see. I thought there was a lot of things that I could contribute towards, and I quickly realized that being the president would allow me to do a lot of those things much faster. I would like to think being young gave me a lot of energy, a lot of late nights. I always had a huge appetite for learning, listening, speaking with others. So just a lot of hard work, and there was certainly a lot of challenges because Tahltan territory is so large. We have 80+% of the Golden Triangle, so there's a lot of industry in our territory at all times, and 80 to 90% of Tahltans don't live in Tahltan territory anymore. So there was a lot of capacity issues, but I came in there, worked as hard as I could, got our staff from a place where we only had 4 to 5 individuals to over 50 individuals with 13 departments. We did a lot of work to recruit people to come and work for the Tahltan central government, and most of those people were some of our best and brightest Tahltan members, because as you said, there's a lack of infrastructure. There's no universities in our territory. There's only one major highway that goes through our territory. So as a Tahltan member, to get a lot of that education and build up that expertise, unfortunately, we do have to leave. And I was one of those people that moved away in elementary school to get a better education and have more opportunities with sports. But I was one of the lucky ones who had parents and an extended family and a desire to always be with my people when I wasn't in university or I wasn't in school. And it was, always part of my plan to be giving back to my people whenever I could. So 80% of the Golden Triangle is in Tahltan territory, and it's an area known around the world in the mining industry and probably in the investment industry when it comes to mining projects and mineral exploration, as an area that has given life to several mines, and there's several large deposits, some of the biggest mineral deposits in the world. And as a result, there's a lot of eyes and ears on the Golden Triangle. And as we transition into this new place where the world, and Canada in particular, is talking about critical minerals, there's a lot of those critical minerals in Tahltan territory that the world would like to get its hands on.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. In historical accounts of gold rushes in BC, Indigenous peoples of the area were impacted by the mass migrations into their prospective territories. Indigenous people provided essentials for to prospectors, including goods, and as guides and translators. Let us return the conversation with Chad.
What I would say is that the mining industry, when done properly, is extremely empowering for industry, Indigenous people, British Columbians, Canadians, and a lot of other stakeholders. But every Indigenous group is going to have some areas and maybe certain types of projects, depending on the way that they're done, which they find culturally inappropriate and unacceptable. So the anthracite coal project that you're talking about and a handful of other sensitive areas in Tahltan territory were absolutely off limits for us. So we had to push back and negotiate hard. But there was a lot of other areas where we were able to have meaningful relationships, collaborations, and eventually have mining projects that have been extremely empowering to us and have really helped fuel Northwest British Columbia and the world with critical minerals. So it really depends, and every project, every Indigenous group, every company is going to have different challenges, and it's just important to have those conversations and figure it out. I think Pictou Consulting Corporation, overseen by myself, is in an excellent position to be helping Indigenous people, mineral exploration companies, and mining companies with a lot of the changes that are coming in March to the online mineral staking process, and even to a lot of active mineral exploration activities and active mines where the relationship between Indigenous peoples and industry and or government are not where they should be. I think it's very important for all mineral exploration companies to work closely with Indigenous people when they're working in the territory, to have a communications agreement, a exploration agreement, and once you get to an active project where profits are being made, then you need to have good impact benefit agreements that make sense. So during my 12 years as an elected official for the Tahltan people and 10 years as president, we worked through a lot of those agreements at the mineral exploration stage to the impact benefit agreement stage, and they've been extremely empowering when we've done them right. And I would love to share that knowledge with people. And I think Indigenous people, mineral exploration companies, and mining companies, there's a lot of room for growth there. And I think on all sides, sometimes they don't realize just how empowering it can be when you have a good relationship, when you have open communication, and when you have trust. So hopefully we can help these different groups with that. And I think it'll empower not just them, but everybody in British Columbia and everybody in Canada, particularly in these challenging times with the USA. Pictou is a rock formation at the confluence of the Stikine River and the Tahltan River. This is at the Tahltan village site. They call it Gunda Chega in our language. And this is the area where the Tahltan Nation began, according to our oral history. And that area has always been very sacred to me. I bring the kids there every year to take pictures. That's where I ask my wife to marry me. My home in my heart is everywhere between the Tuya River and Telegraph Creek, and Pictou is kind of right in the middle. So that's ultimately why I decided to name the company after Pictou, and really excited for this new chapter. Being an entrepreneur now, there's definitely going to be more flexibility to just focus on specific goals. When I was the president, I had to wear 20 hats dealing with at least 13 different departments, 50 plus employees, so many different negotiations, whereas under Pictou Consulting Corporation, I can put a lot more focus on my clients and their needs, their aspirations. I look forward to working with some other Indigenous leaders as well and empowering them where I can, and just really kind of carving out that niche where I can spend a lot of time on doing the things that I do best, which is building capacity, building partnerships and empowering initiatives between Indigenous people and industry, and also government, where you have a willing government sometimes.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Obsidian, a volcanic glass formed by rapidly cooled lava, has a rich history valued by ancient civilizations for its sharp edges and use in tools, weapons, and mirrors. Let us return to the conversation with Chad.
The Tahltan Nation has been mining for several thousand years. We used to be mining obsidian to give us advantages with our weaponry and with our tools, and we wouldn't be where we are today without mining. In the modern day, mining in Canada is very empowering when you do it properly. I think for a lot of people out there who are against mining, they don't realize that if these critical minerals are not extracted in Canada, they may be extracted in other areas that are far more ecologically sensitive, utilizing tactics that are far more awful on the environment. Places like South America, places like Africa, Russia. Canada has one of the best mining regimes and the best environmental laws out there when a mining project takes place. It's not perfect. You should always be utilizing local knowledge, indigenous knowledge, and Western science, and we should always be getting better. But at the end of the day, we are one of the best, if not the best. So that's one misconception, is that people often focus on the negative, but Canada is doing it right when you compare it to other jurisdictions. I think another thing that Indigenous folks and other people that have no experience in mining don't realize is that these are very well-paying jobs. They can empower Indigenous nations, and a group like the Tahltan is a great example. We have never been more self-sufficient financially than we are now. We have a Tahltan Heritage Trust Fund that's over $100 million. It was at $6 million 10 years ago when I started. Now it's over $110 million. We have hundreds of people bringing $30+ million a year into their households. We have entrepreneurs that are becoming millionaires every year because they've learned how to navigate the system when it comes to, putting together good bids, hiring good employees, and landing those projects in the mineral exploration and mining industry. And at the end of the day, if we do the reclamation plans properly, and if we have proper oversight and bring in the proper expertise, we can do this in a way that maintains our environment, maintains our cultural values. And I think a lot more Indigenous peoples and mineral exploration companies and mining companies that have never had a really strong partnership and relationship like the Tahltan Nation has had with the mining industry, if they can learn from me and other leaders that have experienced that, it could be a game changer for success. So sometimes you'll have an industry or a particular project in your territory that is just too ecologically sensitive or just not being operated properly. So when I shut down jade mining in Tahltan territory, I didn't do this because I wanted to see jade mining gone forever. I did this because the way jade mining was taking place was not ecologically responsible. It did not respect modern day Tahltan values or modern day Indigenous law, because Tahltan Nation was not receiving any benefits, but we were being left with a mess. And these jade operators, in some cases, were not following rules, and there was no proper enforcement being done by the province because our area is so remote. So there are definitely some projects, some industries that are unacceptable according to Indigenous values, and when that happens, unfortunately, sometimes they are forced to take matters into their own hands. I'm proud of the work that we did with shutting down the jade mining industry, but at the same time, I do believe we can have a healthy, equally prosperous jade mining industry, just like we have a healthy mining industry in our territory. It just needs to be done differently, and it needs to respect cultural values and modern day Indigenous law. Tahltan has shown time and time again that when you work hand in hand with the mining industry in a good way, everybody can benefit, and I think we need a lot more of that in this province and in this country. And I think we'll see a lot more success stories once Indigenous people and industry reach out to those who have a track record of success and have been doing this successfully for over a decade. So I look forward to being able to help out where I can.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Today, we have a better grasp on how things are connected, what affects us, and how nested systems are made from many small parts that are driven by simple rules. In this final segment of Open Connection, Chad shares his 4 pillars of success.
A lot of my success from being a leader and juggling all these responsibilities comes from 4 pillars that I always took really seriously. You have your family and all the responsibilities around that. You have your culture/community, which is a huge part of my identity, and staying spiritually and emotionally strong, being out on the land and practicing those traditions. Then you have your health and fitness. It's pretty hard to be an effective leader if you're not healthy yourself. And then the 4th one is just having a livelihood that you hopefully enjoy and hopefully gives you purpose. So when I talk to other leaders, and whenever somebody may reach out to me under Pictou Consulting Corporation to help mentor them, to help train them, that's really the way that I come at things, is from those 4 pillars. Pictou Consulting Corporation could definitely assist with what I call internal reconciliation, and never before has that been more necessary between provinces and other jurisdictions, but it's always been a huge challenge within Indigenous communities themselves. So when I was the president of the Tahltan central government, it was required for us to figure out how we were going to navigate some of the jurisdictional challenges between our government and the local bands, how we were going to work hand in hand with our corporation, with our investment entity, with some of the health entities. So many times Indigenous peoples are not able to utilize all the opportunities and make the most of them because there's a lot of infighting and a lot of that internal work has not been done. So I would love to come on board and help Indigenous peoples, their governments, their entities take a real holistic look at things and figure out a way so that we can build that internal reconciliation and that internal strength, so that when government or industry does come knocking at the door with opportunities, we're able to move forward with them with certainty and capitalize on those opportunities as much as possible in an efficient way, because a lot of times time is money. A lot of times the window to capitalize is not that big. So it's very important for Indigenous people to be organized and to be prepared when those opportunities arise. With the communication agreements that I created and implemented for the Tahltan central government with mineral exploration companies, there was a lot of really important provisions in there that empowered people on both sides. So on the Tahltan side, we had things like funds set aside to bring youth down to major mining events like AME Roundup in Vancouver, PDAC over in Toronto. You could bring youth over to Minerals North, wherever that is, from year to year. And this is a long-term investment into the younger generation. And over the years, the amount of young Tahltan people who are now adults with their own families and working incredible jobs in the mining industry has been amazing to see. At the same time, we were able to utilize those funds to do things like job fairs and have quarterly meetings with our communities or our governments. And from the mining company side of things, they don't need to go out and hire as many consultants and communication firms because they've already agreed to processes with the indigenous groups. So there's a lot of really good benefits for entrepreneurs, communities, building that relationship through communication, empowering youth, and getting a good workforce when you're the mining company. So that's definitely an area where I feel like a lot of Indigenous people and industry need to do a better job. Since I started Pictou Consulting Corporation, I've been able to go to all the major mining events in British Columbia, and I just got back from PDAC in Toronto. And what I would say is that there is still a lack of Indigenous presence. I would love to see more success stories out there, more Indigenous leaders, more Indigenous youth being at these events, helping promote the industry, helping share the success stories of good IBAs and of, all the Indigenous people who have become engineers, lawyers, doctors. The mining industry doesn't just provide benefits to the people who work at the mine, it also provides significant revenue that can be utilized by any Indigenous nation to become more self-sufficient and build up meaningful infrastructure, but also to do what we did at the TCG during my time there, which is to create robust education and training departments so that you can fund all your people who have dreams about becoming helicopter pilots, tradesmen, doctors, lawyers, whatever. The mining industry and agreements, with other economic development give you that flexibility to empower your communities, empower your people, and to empower your nation as a whole. So I would love to see a lot more of that being spoken about at these major mining events and other industrial events. We talk a lot about critical minerals, we talk a lot about Indigenous rights, but we need to do a better job having Indigenous people in these settings, celebrating the successes, and having firms and leaders and successful Indigenous people like myself really sharing those stories and helping each other learn so that more of us are empowered and our future generations are that much stronger.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.